Hello everybody, it is Elijah Avalon. Welcome back to my channel. And today I'm going to show you a little bit about my personal practice and what that entails. My channel has grown exponentially just in the last few months. And for that, I thank you. I thank you for helping me make this into my job. Um, I appreciate that so much for all the support I've had at alabamamagic.com. And all of the support I have had here and on other social media platforms. So thank you so much. But since I have had so much growth, I've had a lot of people wondering what exactly is it that I do, because I think just a short look across my website or across my social media profiles, you'll see that I never use the word witch. I don't say that I practice witchcraft, although from a academic standpoint and from a neo-societal standpoint, I certainly am a witch and am practicing witchcraft. But I am someone who identifies as a warlock, which, yes, is like the male term for a witch. But for me personally, it means something more. But more so than warlock, I identify as a conjure man, as a southern cunning man, and as a diviner and a moon doctor. The last two being the words that I use the most to describe my practice. When someone says, "What do you believe? What are you? Who are you?" I say, "I'm a diviner, and I am a southern moon doctor." And people always wonder what that means. So here you go. A diviner is a person who can channel the divine. Now, traditionally, the divine would mean God with a capital G, right? But in today's world, where Christianity and other Abrahamic faiths are getting less and less of a hold on individuals, myself included, the divine can mean anything. It doesn't even have to be gendered. So interpret that as you may. But it is a term that goes back a very, 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 very long time as someone who just channels the divine through them to work miraculous works or magic, or someone who can lay upon hands and heal people, who can diagnose sicknesses, someone who can speak in tongues or has the gift of prophecy. You get the idea. Someone who can speak to and channel the divine through them. And that is something that I was told I was from a very young age from my mom and pa. Mom and pa are my grandma and grandpa. So mom and pa always said that I was a diviner, as did other people in my family, including my mama. And it's something I always felt, even before I was told, which is the case with a lot of us magical people, right? So yes, 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 I am a diviner, and, pardon, I have to get a drink of water. And, uh, sorry, my mind just left me. I am fighting allergies. It's been a rough winter. But anywho, I'm a diviner and a moon doctor. Now, moon doctor is also a term that I first heard from my Paul. Paul was a fisherman, a nature man, right? And with that, because of his generation, he was born in 1931. He's no longer with us. Rest in peace, Paul. Paul had a lot of knowledge passed to him from his parents, who were obviously born in the 1800s, the late 1800s. And, so much of that information is being lost or being preserved in odd ways, in my opinion. But I am proud to continue the legacy of Southern folk magic as a conglomerate of Native American practice, African American practice, Latinx practices, and Western European practices, and Eastern European practices. Southern conjure work is definitely a huge smorgasbord board of practices from a lot of continents. But a moon doctor is a term that I did always hear, and a term that you can find for yourself in documentaries like Sigils, Cures, and Witchery, which is a perfect documentary on Southern folklore and folk medicine, and it specializes in the Appalachian region of the South, which is so popular right now. So yes, a moon doctor is a person who, more so than a diviner, they don't just work with the divine, but they work with the spirits of the land, and they can be good or bad. Moon doctors can be of the left path or the right path, but most often moon doctors walk the middle of the road, which is to say that someone who walks the middle of the road is somebody who can partake in both paths. They can bless and they can blast. Now, a blessing, or casting blessings, or conjuring blessings, is just a way of Southern people saying healing magic, white magic, high magic, right? Magic that does no harm. Whereas blastins, putting somebody on blast, or casting blastins, or blastings, is the negative stuff, right? It's hexes, jinxes, curses, stuff like that. So you get the idea. So as me personally, as a moon doctor and a diviner, I do walk the middle of the road, which I think any self-respecting magic practitioner at some point has had to walk the middle of the road, even if they choose to walk on one side or the other. But I digress. Moon doctor, we don't really know why it's moon, because much of Southern folklore and folk magic and folk practices are an oral tradition, like a ton of it, like almost all of it. So anything that you do read is usually the same bits over and over and over, and they're almost always just from Appalachia. And that is due to, I think, books like the Foxfire series that documented those people. But yes, just like our African and European ancestors who were clan people, tribal people, you know, our traditions were oral, they were not written down, and that continues as a tradition in the South to this day. To this day. And I think that's a beautiful thing. But it can also be an infuriating thing as a historian. But I digress. As you can see, it's a Southern thing, y'all, to just wander off the path, talk about different things, to ramble. Anywho, God bless me. Moon is something captivating, right? It represents the night, it represents the other side in a lot of folklore and mythologies. The moon is like the beacon for spooks and haints and ghosts and all those things. Fairies and goblins and blah, blah, blah. So you get the idea of what a moon doctor is from those context clues and brief explanations. Brief. So I'm a diviner. I am a moon doctor. And here are some of the things that I've gathered to show you that are important to me personally in my practice. One being water. So bioregionalism is a huge part of conjure, of all kinds of conjure. But I'm specifically telling you about my conjure, which is the conjure of Northwest Alabama. So with that disclaimer out of the way, Northwest Alabama conjure, or cunning work, or whatever. One thing that is big for me is black cat oil. Black cat oil. You'll hear about that a lot in voodoo and in hoodoo, because as we know, root work / voodoo / hoodoo, all of those practices are inseparable from almost all Southern folk practices. So, black cat oil, I make it myself. I keep it in a big bulk. This will last me for years, and unless I get crazy. And it does contain the dander, the fingernails or claws of black cats that I did gain ethically. I have 3 black cats. And I will just brush them, which they love, and I will take that excess hair off the comb, throw it into my spells. And their nails, they all have nails, and as they just shed, a cat's nail is like a claw, right? It's a point, and as it sheds, it like the whole casing of it pops off. So you have this hollow claw, and so I will gather those off the floor as I find them, and put them into things like this as well, or in I don't know if you can hear that, or in amulets around my neck. So black cat oil, it's used for blessings and blastins. It is a all-purpose oil for me personally. I use black cat oil for everything. Although another thing, which is a little controversial, some people get upset about the use of animals in practice, right? But I think if you're on the witchy path or other magical paths, you know that that's a part of it. So I personally do not. I try to say things without being demonetized. Oh my gosh. I do not unalive animals myself. And I usually only work with animal byproducts, not usually the entire carcass of an animal itself. With that said, snake oil. There's a lot of jokes about snake oil out there as fake medicine and things like that. It's an old joke. But anywho, snake oil I use occasionally for healing, but pretty much exclusively for blasting. And we can see if this is predominantly used for my blessings, and this is for my blastings, we can see what kind of year I had in 2022. So, snake oil, it is it can be used with a lot of different carrier oils, olive oil, canola oils, all kinds of oils. You can actually make oil straight from the snake too, if you're lucky enough to have the whole snake. But otherwise, yeah, snake oil. Of course, we always have to come through with the bottle of hot sauce. Hot sauce is used in blessings and blastings also. It's all-purpose. I particularly like to use it just to amp up a spell, or some kind of working. Kind of like you would do with a clear quartz, right? How it helps everything around it. That's how I treat hot sauce. I also will just take hot sauce in the bottle and sprinkle it on my windowsills and around my doorways outside for protection. So there's that. Powders are huge in Southern folklore. So I do have powders. As you can see too, I think with the exception of hot sauce, I make everything myself. I don't buy things. Everything is made because for me this is a craft. It is not just a religion or spiritual practice. It is a craft. I'm practicing Southern conjure craft. Wild crafting. So anywho, we have powders. Powders are made up of ground up roots, fruit peels, vegetable pieces, stems, leaves. I mean, all kinds of things. Almost all plant related though. And sometimes I use them with a carrier powder, kind of like you would a carrier oil. And like baby powder is kind of the most popular, or cornstarch, which is my favorite to use. But anywho, powders used for everything, blessings and blastings. For the most mundane things, you can use powders. Powders and oils are huge for me, personally. Herbs. This is a personal, as you can see, it's all kinds of different herbs in here. This is a personal concoction of herbs that I made quite some time ago. There's all kinds of things in here. I'm not going to tell you what they all are, because it is my personal recipe. But, I mean, we've got ginkgo biloba leaves. We've got poppy seeds. We've got garlic. We've got lavender. We've got marshmallow root. We've got rose petals. I mean, there's a lot of things in here. And I usually make herbs that are drinkable, so I'll make things like this as a tea. I can turn this into a tea and drink. Or like with this one, I use it also kind of like as a work-all. So everything that I'm showing you, I keep saying, oh, it's a catch-all, it's a catch-all. But that's how I work. I don't, despite how my workspace may look, I don't like a lot of clutter, and I don't like to be complicated. I like to simplify, simplify, simplify. So I find recipes for things that can work as all-purpose magic materials for me. And that's just me. But this is one of those things, I can use this for blastins if I have to, but this particular recipe is used particularly for blessings and also as just offering to the spirits. I do work predominantly with spirits, more so than deities. I work with the spirits of the dead, my ancestors, the queer ancestors. I do work with fae. I do work with elves. I do work with merfolk. I do work with literary characters as thought forms. But I don't work a lot with deities, actually, which is different from, I think, most everybody in the magical community, particularly witchcraft and Wicca, right? Yeah, I use this as offerings a lot. A lot. So, is that everything I gathered for you? Yes. So, as you can see, I wear a shawl a lot. That is kind of like, I guess, kind of like a witch's cape or a cloak or a robe would be in other practices for me. The shawl is just a magical piece of attire that helps me focus and maintain energy, as do hats. I actually usually am wearing, you can't see it here because it's black, but I usually am wearing a black fisherman's hat, which is like a wide-brimmed hat that has a drawstring. That's usually what I'm wearing with my shawl and my acorn, or acorn, as you would say. I'm sure all of you would say. But an acorn necklace that does have cat things inside. And my Buckeye necklace is a must for every time I do magic work. A must. So I don't cast circles in magic. Very rarely would I cast a circle or call the quarters or whatever, or make a compass. But I will always wear my Buckeye necklace, and it serves basically the same function, and that is to conjure. It's kind of like me putting on a doorbell. Like I'm letting the spirits know, hey, I don't know if you can hear it, but it has seeds in it. Like, hey, I'm here. I'm ready to work. Buckeyes are also highly protective and healing. So this is going to keep me protected from any negative energies during the spells and the workings. Because I do not really cast circles. Anywho, I wanted to keep it a short and sweet video, but I did ramble quite a bit. But it's still pretty short, right? Right? So that is the basis of my magic, blessings and blastins, and making your own tools. I'm not really big on buying store-bought tools or from buying tools made by other people. I mean, yes, there are exceptions. Like, yes, I have bought tarot cards, obviously, that I did not make, and rune sets that I did not make. But I digress. Making things is such a fun part of the craft to me, and important part, and also it's unfathomable to me to be working craft and not making crafts. Like, it does not compute in my head. Anywho, there we go. Oils, hot sauce, powders, tinctures, herbal mixtures. That's the stuff I can't live without in my practice. And I make it all with stuff that I can find outside, with the exception of this fancy one that I wanted to show you, that does have things that aren't available here. But almost everything I use, with the exception of some of these herbs here, are herbs I can gather outside my house, at the local park, or out in the county. I encourage everyone to use bioregionalism, by the way. That's just my PSA. But I digress. Thank you for listening to me ramble here. And I hope you were intrigued by some of what I do in my practice. And I hope that me explaining what a moon doctor and a diviner are help you understand where I'm coming from magically and my ideology and theology on magic. Thank you so much for watching. And goodbye.